Hi, it's Greg and Lucky.
And this is our podcast. If you don't catch us from 5 to 9, this is what you missed.
People were asked, if you had to fight an animal toe-to-toe, what animal do you think you could beat?
Squirrel. Heads up.
I can't swat a fly or squash a spider. I think they're going to get me first. Some of us believe we can go toe-to-toe with a grizzly bear.
Come on.
And win.
Oh.
Like, are you Leo DiCaprio?
Yeah, The Revenant.
Yeah. He fought a grizzly. It didn't go well.
I was thinking Anthony Hopkins. He was in a movie.
Yeah.
Let's say it's like The Edge or something like that with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, they were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of them, who had to fight the grizzly?
I think it was Hopkins who had to do it. He was... Yeah, something about using its own weight against it. You got to put a spike there and get it to chase you.
Yeah, Baldwin didn't fight him. He just bored him to death with his political views. Actually, Alec is a pretty angry guy. He could probably have beaten up the grizzly bear. Right. People believe they can beat a lion, an elephant, a gorilla, a crocodile,
an elephant?
Yeah, they believe.
What the hell are you going to do against an elephant?
A kangaroo. Have you ever seen, when a kangaroo has had enough of you, their kick is pretty good. An eagle.
What?
Eagle just fly away?
You think?
You got to climb to the top of the mountain to get to it?
Talons, too.
Yeah. A goose. You ever been in a park and the goose gets mad at you?
I feel safer with a golf club in my hand, but only slightly.
Yeah, they're vicious. People believe they can beat a house cat, a rat. Look, you don't want to fight any of these animals because they're all vicious. They're like Mike Tyson. They bite.
Right. True. Yeah, they don't fight fair.
No, they don't. Nothing in the animal kingdom is fair.
Why are we asking these questions?
I don't know. You couldn't say to a grizzly, give me a second. I'm winded.
You got to play dead for a bit.
Didn't we learn that some time back? Roll over and play dead.
Or play Metallica. And then they'll...
Right, that's right.
It was a cougar or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Scared away.
We, as humans, unarmed, rank second to last behind geese when it comes to being able to defend ourselves.
Right.
Elephants and rhinos would be the hardest to beat in general. I say a grizzly is probably...
Geese were the lowest? They're the worst?
Yeah. Well, like second to last. Yeah. I guess if we got to beat anything, because you just choke them to death.
That's why we make coats out of them. The rest of the animals are making coats out of us.
So a guy dreams up an idea on how to score some cash. He decides earlier this week that he's going to steal cases and cases of Bud Light. And then he's going to return them for the cash.
Oh.
So he steals these 14 cases, rolls them out, puts them in his car. But an hour later, he goes back and he says, my wife bought the wrong beer.
An hour later?
Yeah. The employee couldn't confirm his story, so the guy stormed out without his Bud Light or nothing. And then when the store looked up the surveillance footage, they figured out what had happened, and they called the cops. Now the cops are trying to track the guy down. He's got no beer. He's got no money. He's probably going to go to jail.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait?
Or you should have. I think the scam might have worked a little better.
Go to a different store?
Or turn around and go right back in.
Right.
Because then you could say, my wife just brought it out.
Nah, that might be a little too fresh, because you think the person behind the counter would know if you just checked out someone who bought 14 cases.
And why would a dude, isn't that embarrassing to say you sent your wife to buy 14 cases of beer? Like, I know that lovely Maria won't even step into the beer store.
Oh, really?
It's her no-go zone.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the number 2 no-go zone.
Bedroom beer store. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, for some reason, and her mom's the same way. Like, her mom would send us fellas to go buy beer, or Maria, if we needed anything from the beer store, if we were having people over, I would have to go, which, fine. But yeah,
Does she drink beer?
Not often.
Right.
She'll have like a shandy or something. She likes to mix them with like ginger ale or something.
Will she buy beer at the liquor store?
No, I don't think so. I don't know that she ever has.
Huh.
She'll go to the liquor store and get whatever.
Well, she would have no need. You're there every day.
I have a tent set up inside. And remember I told the story about the beer store being closed over the St. Patty's Day? Well, I was back in there now, and I'm sure I've been in there a couple of times, but never really noticed why the doors were closed. And I think I finally figured it out. It looks like they've drywalled. That's what they did. And they put up like fancier little signs over each beer case to show the price.
Okay.
That seemed to be what shut them down. Which, again, you had to drywall over St. Paddy's Day.
Seems a little odd.
It's the only time the drywall is available. Now, we've had this ongoing story, of course, about Doug Ford and the closing of the golf courses, and everybody is, of course, very upset with him because now you can't golf until June 2nd. But this is his reasoning for why the golf courses are closed.
I talk to my buddies. I know what happens. You know, they pick up another buddy, 2 or 3, they go out, go golfing. Then after golf, they go back, they have a few pops. That's the problem.
He's such a Mackenzie brother. He's the lost Mackenzie brother.
No, he sounds more like Bubbles. He really does. I mean, and here's the issue here is that if you just stick to the script, and he was trying to say it's about mobility.
Right.
Right? That, you know, you don't want people traveling to go to the golf courses. A stay-at-home order means stay at home. That was what the issue was mobility. But to go off into this, I talked to my buddies. Well, you know what? You're the premier. If you know your buddies are doing this, call them out on it.
Well, he might not be wrong, Lucky, because research has been done and booze brings us together.
Right.
You actually had people sitting around who would drink just water and they wouldn't get close. The minute we start having pops, we all get tight.
Right.
So this is the research that shows that Doug is right about the pops.
Whatever.
Well, he's wrong about calling them pops. What year is it? 1986? I haven't said pops since high school. At some point this summer, you might be able to go on a date, meet someone at a bar, have something to eat, maybe a couple of pops. Maybe.
Really?
Maybe.
You think?
You might be have a couple pops.
I don't know about the pops.
Get some za.
Apparently everyone's having pops already. That's why we can't do anything.
If you remember back to when you were allowed to go on dates, some went great and some not so much. Lots of things can turn a date in the wrong direction, like forgetting the person's name. Is there things that people say they had happen to them or they did?
That's not good.
No.
That's really tough, too.
Is it worse to forget the person's name or call them the wrong name?
I would say call the wrong name.
Especially during sex.
Definitely so. I mean, if you forget, I mean, there's likely a way that you can find out quickly, right? I mean, especially if you've been texting with them.
Sure.
You know, you can just kind of check your phone quickly and follow up with that. You call them the wrong name, that's tough recovery.
Yeah. How about spilling a drink on yourself or spilling food on yourself? Again, what's worse, spilling it on yourself or on them?
Right.
Especially if it's hot soup.
Yeah, on them is not good.
If you're on a date and you bump into an ex.
Oh, that could be awkward.
Well, if she's attractive, though, it kind of makes you look like a bit of a big deal.
If she's crazy, or he is, that doesn't look good.
We've probably all done this. You go in for a hug or a kiss at the wrong time.
Oh.
You know, get the cheek turn.
You get a turn, or they're going for the handshake. You're going full on.
Yeah. It's all very awkward. Speaking of awkward silence. You know, you're sitting there, you're gabbing, you're enjoying some food together, sharing an app, and then you slowly just start to run out of things to talk about.
I mean, do you think that would not happen because it's a first date or early on in a relationship? But then again, sometimes, you know, there's so much talking, especially through all of this that's been going on. You might have been talking online with the person so much or on the phone. Right. You know everything about them before you actually meet. You run out of things.
How about telling a joke that doesn't make them laugh or laughing at something that wasn't supposed to be a joke?
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, you mean your mom really is dead? Oh. Yeah, not good. Having food in your teeth, burping. All of these things.
Right, the bodily functions.
Yeah. Well, you've got a great plan, though. This is a long time ago, right. I guess, when you were in the dating world.
Uh-huh.
You got to something rather quickly.
Well, I mean, listen, I wasn't straining to try to, but should flatulence have to be happening, then, you know, you got to get that out early.
And if she stuck around for the entree.
Right. If she's still around, then... I went through way too far long of my life holding it in for like a good month or two or more, straining at that point.
Surprised you didn't explode.
You know.
So if she sticks around for an entree or dessert, or still goes home with you.
Right.
After that.
Yes.
In your mind, she's a keeper. Oprah was on Rob Lowe's podcast, and he asked her if there was a question ever in her long and storied career that she wished she hadn't asked.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. And she thought for a second, and then she said, yeah. She goes, this haunts me to this day. She said, Sally Field was on the show years ago, and she asked her if Burt Reynolds slept with his toupee on. Sally didn't answer, clammed up, and the interview was basically over. She says, I cringe now even thinking that I would have asked that type of question.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interviewing it really is a skill and so hard to do.
If you haven't done it, it's not easy.
Right. And they make it look, talk show hosts, they make it look quite easy. And there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. And they have teams, some of them that help them. But to get to that point, you've got to go through a lot of interviews where you're just, you're thinking about the question and trying to listen at the same time. And sometimes on television, you get someone in your ear telling you, timing as well. And it's not easy.
Look, the problem for so many who, and especially if you start out in radio or whatever it is, or journalism, and you've got to interview somebody, the problem is our inability to listen. You can go back and review an interview you did with somebody to edit it down, get it ready for on air, and you're like, when you're listening to it finally, and you're just there doing your work, the things you didn't pick up on when they were said, and you get so mad at yourself,
right?
Because you're so busy getting ready for your next question. The ability is just to be able to sit and listen. The Friends reunion is getting lots of hype. I guess it's going to be on HBO Max at the end of the month. The 27th is when they say it's going to premiere.
I am so confused by this thing. Because when they first announced a Friends reunion, I thought it was a show. Right. They were going to do like a scripted Friends cast.
No, just getting together and gabbing.
Yeah.
I guess looking at highlights.
It's almost like a concert's going on now.
Well, they got Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be odd. But then they've got a bunch of people who were in the show with them at the time, like Reese Witherspoon, Tom Selleck. If you go back and you watch it, when it was at its height and the most popular thing on television next to Seinfeld, they had big A-list stars. Like Sean Penn showed up and did a spot. I think he played a guy who was dating Phoebe or something. They had a bunch of big names. Anyhow, Reese Witherspoon, I think she played Rachel's sister. Tom Selleck, of course, was Monica's boyfriend.
Right.
Elliot Gould and Christina Pickles played Ross and Monica's parents.
They got, BTS, I think, too. That big K-pop band is going to be.
Yeah.
So, there's performances. It's all sorts of stuff going on here.
Most important thing, though, Maggie Wheeler is going to be back. Janice.
Oh, right.
That'll be great. She stole the show. The second she'd walk in the door with her voice was just excellent.
Well, and my worry about this for real, like, Friends fans is they're not going to get into anything deep. If there's really not going to be a lot that comes out of this other than some massive fat checks going to the stars.
Yep, for sure. Now, Prince Harry, I guess, is doing his rounds now on podcasts and having chats. Dax Shepard has a podcast called Armchair Expert. And Harry says that he never really wanted to be a part of the royal business. He says, when I was in my early 20s, I had a case of, I don't want this job. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. He said, look what happened to my mom. How am I going to settle down, have a wife and a family when I know that it's going to happen again? He added that having his own family gave him the same feeling of helplessness as he was as a child when he says, quote, in the back of a car while my mom was being chased by the paparazzi. He compared his family situation to a cross between the Jim Carrey movie, The Truman Show, and a zoo. And he says, I think the biggest issue for me was that I was born into it. You inherit the risks that come with it without a choice. So he continues down that road. And Seth Rogen has been doing a bunch of interviews, too. He's got a new book called Yearbook, but he's also going to be starring as the guy who stole the sex tape from Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee in a mini-series called Pam and Tommy.
It's a mini-series?
It's a mini-series. Right. I'm only going to watch certain parts.
Those aren't mini.
Because I lost my copy some time ago. Remember, okay, here's a great example of just how the world has changed. Having a copy of that tape was like getting the Willy Wonka gold ticket. Like, it was so, like someone would say, I know a guy who might be able to get you a dubbed copy. Like, by the time you got your copy, it was so blurred. You know, it was like, in a lot of ways, if you remember,
you couldn't tell if it was Tommy Lee or Geddy Lee by that point.
Remember when there was the media ban on the Karla Homolka trial?
Right. Yes.
But in the States, in Buffalo, I think they had the first edition or fourth edition or whatever the hell the talk show was. And, of course, they weren't banned because it was the U.S. Inside edition. It was banned here,
right,
but not there. So you could get all the courtroom stuff from Inside Edition in Buffalo. Same thing. I remember, like, just scouring friends and family. Anybody, can we get me a tape of the Paul Bernardo, Karla Homolka trials? It was such a thing to get a copy of at the time. You know?
Right.
Nowadays, it's all just there online for you.
And we couldn't be bothered.
It's a shame to hear about Greyhound shutting her down across the country. I mean, they had just gotten their decapitation stuff all in order. And
that took a while for that.
I was feeling ready to get back on the bus with them again. But anyhow, that's done.
Yeah, for most of us, I think, we haven't thought about the idea of taking a Greyhound or any kind of, long bus trip for quite some time. But, in the city, GTA, we have access to the GO. We have via rail options. There's so many other options, before you go bus. But, in some remote communities, they still rely on Greyhound, not only for people, too, but just, for sending product, right? You can ship using Greyhound, or at least you could.
And as we saw in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, you can have yourself a hell of a good time on a bus. Singing songs and watch another couple get it on. Some random facts for you. What country do you think has more 7-Elevens than any other country in the world?
I would say the U.S.
You would think so, right?
Because, I there's not many 7-Elevens in Canada, I don't think, anymore.
Japan.
Really?
21,000 locations.
It's still called 7-Eleven?
I don't know. It's backwards, 11-7. Right. Yeah. It's the other side of the world. Everything's backwards. You might want to steer your kids away from a career in dentistry. Dentists are more likely to kill themselves than any other profession. A dentist is 545% more likely than the average to commit suicide.
Is that right?
Because of your stinky breath.
Yeah, and I would imagine overhead has a lot to do with that, too, right? I mean, you go into a dentist office now, it's, like a full-on cockpit. You got to have TVs for people can, because, of course, we can't look at our phones while we're doing this, so we have to be occupied at some point.
Yeah, God forbid we just sit there for 10 or 15 minutes.
X-rays machines, all the chairs, all the machinery that you have there. I'd imagine it's probably a heavy nut right off the bat.
That's why my dentist, when my appointment is booked for a cleaning, like I just went the other day, they start hammering at me. Texts, emails, calls. Make sure you're coming. Just confirming your appointment.
Right.
We've got TVs to pay for.
And these days, too, even more hygienic practices have had to be put in place, too.
I talked to them about moving forward, and all of them, the dental hygienists and my dentist that I've seen over this pandemic say, the stuff they've put into place, they're sticking with.
Yeah.
And the dental hygienist made a great point. She goes, I never realized... I'd go home and I'd look down at myself and my family would see exactly what I had done all day because I've got every client's bits and pieces from their mouth on my clothes.
Yep.
So they kind of like the idea of being totally PPE'd up. Cats love boxes. But a new study found that they're even drawn to squares, and they don't have to be 3D. If there's a square shape on the ground, your cat will probably sit in it. And it even works with optical illusions. So there you go.
They like a good tile floor then.
They do. And they love that red pointer thing.
Don't we all?
It is kind of fun. Yeah, it is kind of fun. Unless you're on stage.
Right. Or a pilot.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't go over well. Alley-oop started as a football term. It was used in 1957 to describe a play where the quarterback would throw the ball high up in the air and another player would jump to catch it. Basketball started using the term 2 years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard it really in football.
Maybe it's not a thing they use as much anymore. It was a term in 1957. Maybe they they've moved on from the alley-oop. Yeah.
Sports doesn't usually update that easily.
No, that's true. Listen to the music at the Scotiabank Arena. Can we lose the Hall & Oates for crying out loud? Enough already.
It's like a Hall & Oates concert every couple of days there.
Even Daryl Hall has called up and said, enough! Enough!
I made my dreams months ago on that song.
Oates is just happy to be heard anywhere.
Right, that's true.
But Hall is just, forget it. Imagine if they ever played the Scotiabank Arena and didn't do that song.
Well, mind you, there'd probably be a whole generation that will look at them and go, holy crap, they're playing the Leafs song.
That's right. When Jack Nicholson was 37 years old, he found out the woman he thought was his sister was really his mother.
Okay.
And you know what he said? You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, that's what she said to him. That's where he got it.
The word dilemma originally meant a choice between two tough options, right?
Yes. Okay.
Well, 3 options is a trilemma, and 4 options is a quadrilemma.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go. And the average person takes 216.3 million steps.
I try to reduce that as much as possible.
Yeah. Next time the doctor downer tells me I'm not getting enough exercise, it's the equivalent of walking all the way around the earth 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And if you got like a Fitbit, you're trying to get 10,000 a day now, too.
That's right. Is that really... That 10,000 thing, I mean, I know it's been the thing, but it seems like it started with that you got to do anything 10,000 times to be great at it.
Oh.
You know, that theory?
Right.
And then I don't know now, did that just translate? Like, did that just become part of a marketing campaign? Has it been shown to be true that if you actually take 10,000 steps a day, obviously you're doing something good for yourself, you're walking.
Yeah,
you're
I think they just picked a random...
But could you do 2,000 and get the same effect?
I don't know about 2,000, but certainly I think if you're up at around 5 or 6, you're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, they had to find a goal that would get people... moving more than they really should be or have been.
That's right.
I think the average person probably takes about 2,000 to 3,000 a day. And then, you go around 5 if you're getting around and mobile more. And so they set a goal of 10 to just try and force people to be mobile.
I'm up around 75 to 80 steps a day. something in that range.
Once I hit that, I'm to bed. That's it.
That's it. And if it is true that it takes 10,000 hours or 10,000 times to become an expert at something, you and I are almost there, Powder.
Rock Mornings with Craig Venn and Lucky. 94.9 The Rock.